All right, guys, we've talked about numbers, we've talked about boolean, we've talked about string, we've talked about colors. So let's quickly talk about what is called enums, because we can't really do without enums in MQL4. And what is enum? So enum is more like something that give you multiple option, and the option is within a particular range. For example, what is your marital status? Are you single? Are you married? Are you divorced? So another thing is, what is your blood group? There's a particular option. So now let's ask practical question. What type of trailing do you want to use? Do you want to trail using the fractals, using the exponential moving average, using the pips? What type of option that is, that you can define? What type of moving average method do you want to use? Do you want to use the exponential? Do you want to use the simple? Do you want to use the smoothing? Do you want to use the linear weighted? What do you want to trade on? Do you want to trade on the moving average, the M5, the M15, the M30, the H1, the 1 hour, the 4 hours? More like something that have, so enums give you ability to store data that is within a particular range. So let's quickly see how we can define an enums. So let's quickly define our enums. So to define our enums, of course, we are going to say enum, right? Then what is the variable name for the enum? So we can say maybe trailing type, right? Then you now give a curly brace, then a semicolon, right? Then you now specify the options. See, this is where you put the options. So you can say trailing with RSI, with a moving average, MA. You can say trailing with fractals, you can see that. You can also say trailing with pips, pips. So automatically by doing this, you have defined a new data type, which is of data type enum. So instead of saying color of this, blah blah blah. So all you need is, what you'll be doing now is that you say enum, and this is, so let me, let me comment this out. So now you can just say this particular enum, automatically this is now serving as your data type. Then now you need to specify a variable. So you can simply say maybe trail type equal to, now the value you are supposed to specify to this data type should be with among these options. So you can now say either this or this or this, right? So that is an enum. So it is as simple as that. Yes, it is not giving a sweet color, but that is simply an enum. So if I save and compile, you will see that I have, oops, let me remove this. Okay, let me just comment this out. We've commented out the this particular line, so that is why we're having the error. Let me just save and compile, and you see we have no error. And of course, another thing is that by default, these values usually have an integer equivalent, right? So let me quickly prove that to you. So let me try to print out this variable, right? So we can see that. I'll save and I'll compile. So I'll launch. You can see it is printing out 2, right? And that is because this value is of this value. This value is of 1. Is of 0. Oops. This value is of 0. This value is of 1, and this value is of 2. So let me quickly prove that to you again. So I'll copy this. Now paste this. This is assigned to this, and you're trying to print out this. Let me save and compile. You see that it's going to return 0. All right. So double click. You can see 0, and let's see for the other one. We see it is going to return, oops, this. So let me save and I'll compile. Alright, you can see it is returning 1. Also, we have the option to specify the values, right? So let me remove this. So I can easily say, okay, you know what, I don't want to use 0, 1, 2 by default based on the way I line it up. So maybe I want to use 2, 4, 6, Let's see how that will work out. And of course, you do not need to worry about this, and we can remove it to avoid confusion. So now let's see the value that this is going to print out when we are assigning, we are assigning it to 4. So let's see. You can see now it is giving us value of 4, and that is because we are overriding the default, right? So that is why we are able to get 4. So by default, it is 0, 1, 2, but now we are overriding it by giving it a value. So that means if I'm saying, okay, I want to get the trailing, I want to use trailing type of 4, automatically I'm saying trail with fractals. If I'm like, I want to use the trailing type of 6, I'm like, I want to trail with pips, that is what it means. So I hope you understand. And in the case where you still find it hard to understand, please, like I said, along just try to move forward, and things will become clearer as we move forward. So that is that on the norm. So I'll see you on the next lecture. Then we talk about variables.